Hello, everybody. My name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Cheers. All right, we are going live to teach you how to paint this really super cute classic Santa. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this beautiful face. Here he is in all his glory. So we've made it super easy for y'all with this wonderful little traceable that we have available for you. And everything that you need is on our website, tipsyartist.com. We'll always apply all that information in the description below, so you can always check that out later. And then I also have a lovely positive thought for the day. So I've been doing this lately. All right, so this is what's been helping me for the day. I've been resonating on this and trying to bring this into my life. So here we go. Don't worry about your future or how you're going to accomplish a dream. God has already lined up what you need. That's great news, isn't it? All right. Yay. All right. So let's focus on that today. Good news. And let's be at peace. And let's just learn how to relax. And now we're going to have fun and we're going to paint. All right. So here we go. We've got it all lined up. I've got it centered. This is an 11 by 14 canvas. And we have some transfer paper here. I always place the dull gray side up. And then you want to make sure that the shiny side faces your canvas. And then that will give you your transfer. Very simple process. You're going to take either a pencil or a colored pencil works well too, so that you can see it a little bit better with the contrast. And then you can go ahead and trace out just every place you see a line, you'll just trace right over the top, just like that. And then it'll be magic. So you'll lift it up and all that line work will be done. So it will look like a pencil line to start with. And then another important point, I should have said this earlier, but tape. Very important to tape that down so that it doesn't shift while you're working. That's a really important point. And then I always leave the bottom untaped so that I can kind of peek up underneath and check my work and make sure that it's all good. And then your kit comes with a permanent marker. This is very loved and cherished by all beginners. They love this. So they go over all of those lines with the permanent marker line. That really reinforces it, helps it stay. It will even bleed through the paint a little bit. And that's actually a good thing. So it keeps all your trace intact. So that is awesome. All right. So now what we're going to go ahead and start with is our background to begin with. So we're going to have a beautiful kind of fun light turquoise sky. And it really is a nice complement to red. And it has a fun retro look. And so this is a really fun retro Santa. So we love that. All right, so with our mix here, I'm going to start with I call this my mama brush. There she is. She is a 1/2 inch flat, just golden Taklon brush. And then I'm going to go ahead and I've got a lot of white that I go ahead and place out of my plate to begin with. I just use simple plates for paint mixing. And then we're going to start with a little bit of this primary cyan blue. And let's see, let's go ahead and just do about a healthy pea-size amount of that. And then let's do some Viridian. And by the way, all the paints come with the kit, so you don't have to worry about hunting all those down. And I always provide a description below, but there's our beautiful Viridian. So that's going to help us make a really pretty turquoise color. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what the Viridian looks like with the white. So I'm going to go ahead and touch into that a little bit. And then let's add some white to that. Some of you might want something even very different than what I've done, but you can feel how that's a little bit more minty, just all on its own. So if you mix just white and Viridian, you're going to get this beautiful mint color. And then let's go ahead and add a little touch of the primary cyan blue to that. And then this is where it really starts to evolve and turn into a really pretty turquoise color. So I'm going to pick up a lot more white and then gradually kind of pull in this cyan blue and then also that Viridian. And there it is. There's that really beautiful turquoise color. And then I want mine to be pretty light, so I'm really coming in with a lot more white paint there. All right, so we've got a lot mixed up. Nice fully loaded brush here. So I'm going to go ahead and start to apply this into the background. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can push this onto the canvas so you can keep it really fluid and smooth and just kind of work it back and forth. Nice horizontal strokes. You can also touch into a little bit of white and do it that way. It's a very relaxing stroke, really helps you relax during the day. Another way that's a little bit more textural is to do more of a cross stroke. So it looks like you make little tiny X's just back and forth. And you can also crisscross the white back and forth into that stroke. That gives it even more texture in the background. So both of those looks are very fun. Just kind of depends on what you like. I'm going to go ahead and just do the first stroke that I showed you where I just pushed it back and forth and just keep that nice and fluid. And then I'm also going to just work in a little bit of white as I go. And then you can also add a little bit of water as you go too. So I'm going to go ahead and touch into just a tiny amount of water, push that through. That helps the paint be a lot more fluid on the surface area. And then one other little cautionary tip about water. So to me, it really helps a lot with the process, especially helping that paint be more fluid. However, you want to make sure that your canvas is flat, on a flat surface. That way you do not have to worry about any water runs. So you can relax with that a little bit. If it's up on an easel, it can have water runs, and water runs erase through paint, and then they can also just kind of streak down into an area like the face, for example. You wouldn't want that. It can do that to you as well. So they basically look like a mascara run, kind of messy like that. And they can be a little bit challenging to remove. So again, just go ahead and use that ounce of prevention, pound of cure, and just place your canvas on a flat surface and you'll be all ready to go for that. I think with this size of a canvas too, it's actually just a lot easier to work with a flat canvas, just flat on a flat surface. All right, so I'm doing a little bit of some cut-in work now too. And I do have to change how I hold the brush. So if I'm working into a large area, I'm holding the brush more parallel to the canvas. And this gives me a much more gentle hand. It allows a lot more paint to just rest right on the surface area. But when I start to do my cut-in work, definitely have to change. So I hold that brush more like a pencil. So that brush is going, right towards it. And that also allows that line edge to give me a lot more control into a smaller area. So that's going to help me do my cut-in work. And I don't do that much with the brush angled like this because while it does put me in a better position of control into a smaller area, it also kind of gives a lot more of a heavy weight to the hand and it digs into the paint a lot more. So you don't want to do your large areas where you want really good coverage. You don't want to do that with your brush at this angle because it'll make your brush strokes look really choppy and it kind of cuts into your paint and pushes it off the canvas too. So it's fine for the first coat, but you always want to make sure that your finishing coat is, with a little bit more intention, holding that brush more out to the side and just light feathering strokes that come in over the surface area here. It's looking quite beautiful. And again, this is our lovely turquoise sky, which is really wonderful for a retro look. Nice complement to the red that will be in place very soon. And then we're going to do some really fun retro stars, or I'm sorry, not stars. That can be stars too, but in this case, they would be snowflakes. We're going to be doing those in the background as well. Hey, it's looking good. Got a little bit of peekaboo up there, so I gave that another coat. So we've got this long curvy line here around this little shape. So I'm going to turn that brush more over to an angle where it can get in there. And then we will come back in and feather that out with the flat side of the brush. I'm going to have my little bit to get into that little area, but see how I'm coming back in and feathering this out, feathering out those choppy brush strokes. And then we'll feather this back out to the background, help it belong back there. Quite lovely. Coming around that beard. And then feathering this back out. Now, I don't want to forget about that little part there, so I'm going to go ahead and come in with my little bit brush. We'll do a little twist into that paint, and then we'll work in this little small area right in here. I think that may be my only small area. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse out my little bit brush, dry it off, place it off to the side here. And then now we're just working around this pretty forgiving big area here around this beard. And the shape of it, it kind of feels like making big, like a shape of a parentheses. Oops, let me get it on the screen there. Little parentheses. So that's a common motion that we can all connect with. Coming all the way around. It's looking good. Way to go, everybody. You're doing it. I can just feel it. In the future, when you do this video. We just painted this cutie in Texas for a fundraiser in Perrington, Texas. It's a lovely town that I visit a lot. All right, so, oops, oh, I got a big bunch of blue on that one. Let me go ahead and work back in some more white here. All right, we're going to go ahead and work this all in. Just getting that first coat established. And then I will come back over it and turn my brush more over to the side. All right, so now let's feather this out. So we want to make sure and turn that brush more over to the side. Light feathering strokes to smooth all that out and blend it in. All right, wonderful. This is looking really good. All right, very nice. So we have all of our beautiful background done. And I'm going to make red the very last thing that I do, because you have to get some really nice saturation with that. And we don't want it to interrupt any of our beautiful grays, because then that will go to a mauve very quickly. So we want to prevent that from happening. So just a little bit of good planning there. So our next color will actually just be the gray. So that's a nice neutral. It's very light. And I've got a little bit of some black nearby. So, okay, I'm a little bit frozen. Not sure why. My computer, it'll come back. I don't know. Am I back again? Let's make sure I'm back. We're in Guthrie, Oklahoma. So sometimes little bitty towns don't have the fast. I mean, we pay for gigablast with Cox. We pay for the fastest internet you can have. But what can I say? They just, I don't know. They just, this is as good as it gets still in Guthrie. I've never really had this many problems, though. My back on track. Interesting. Yeah, this is not ever really happened before where I've had this big of a delay. So that's not good. Well, not good at all. Hopefully it'll catch up. All right, let's do a little bit of mixing over here on this screen here. And where am I? Ta-da. Okay, so I've got my black, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab a nice big dollop of the white. Let's just grab a little touch of the black there and then work that in. We're going to make a really pretty light gray. Am I back? I'm not. Let's see, I may have to do a little test here. You're going to watch me figure out some technical difficulties. But, let's go to our settings. Yep, I've got the best, fastest gigablast internet you can get. But now I'm going to have to re-invite myself again. Invite. So here we go. And I'm going to send myself another invite. I can get my mouse to work. Wow, I am just having lots of fun here. And return. And return. Let's do that again. Okay, so I have another invite. Don't you just love going live? You get to see all these fascinating technical issues. All right, so I'm going to accept, and we want to make sure continue, allow, mute quickly, and then enter the broadcast. Okay, so we're going to do this again. And then we're going to add to the stream, and we're back. And hopefully Cox Gigablast Internet will stay with us. Don't you just love those commercials? Like you're going to be able to build spaceships with Cox Gigablast Internet. And now you know what they really deliver. So, yeah. For $150 a month, you too can have this issue. Yep. Good times. All right. So we have some beautiful gray mixed up. And we've got white and a little bit of black. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep this really, really light. So a lot of white here. And I have a lot of white nearby here too. So I'm going to keep that nearby, add a whole lot more. And we're going to go ahead and push this into our beautiful little hat. Again, keeping it really, really light. And pretty quickly, I'm going to have to switch over to a smaller brush too. And if you do have a little bit of overlap over that hard black line, no worries, because we can always come back in and reinforce that later. So that's the beautiful thing about having that in place too. And then I'm going to get the big chunks in, and we're going to work into that beard now. And we're just going to give a nice soft overlay of all this beautiful, really light gray, because he has a gorgeous beard. It's always very, very white, a little bit of soft gray in there, but see, and you can play with this if you are more of a fan of like a darker charcoal, and you can add in little touches of that too. You can certainly add a little bit more of that black. Just be really careful with the black. It is super overpowering, and just tiny little touches of it go a really long way, and it can darken it up very quickly. And that's probably the thing that I notice the most when I teach this class in studio, is that people end up getting really dark beards because they don't realize how powerful that black is. And it comes in and it darkens it up very quickly. So I like to keep this pretty light, and then you can notice that line work is peeking through, and that's going to be a wonderful guide for me. And I'll come back over that with darker charcoal. That's where the darker charcoal gray really comes in handy, is that you'll go ahead and paint over all of that line work. And it creates a really nice shadow. But initially, again, keep it just really light, mostly white. So again, I'm getting in the really big areas. And a lot of white, just a tiny touch of that black. And sweeping it in there. We also have that cute little mustache. We have to give him that too. And then I am just about at the point where I am going to definitely have to switch to a smaller brush. I've got just about as much large area work done that I can do. All right, so let's go ahead and rinse out my mama. I'm shaking my table. Okay, so we have our sweet kiddos now. So we have Little Buddy, Little Bit. These are my sweet little kiddos, and they help me do more of the small work. So actually, let's go with Little Bit here. And if you're getting to a really small area and that belly of the brush gets too full, you can do a little twist. Like I twist it in between my fingertips, and then that really helps it get into some smaller areas. Get you back down to a nice fine point. There's my sweet puppy dog coming down the steps. That's Miss Ira. Not very often. There is an occasion where sometimes she will crawl into my lap, and that can be a little awkward because she's 50 pounds. So, but that's when she's feeling incredibly needy. But I always have her. She's usually always sitting right next to me all during the day. So she's real sweetie pie, always has to be near me all the time. And I love that about her. All right, so still more heather gray, and then now we want to make sure we get this real fun little ball here on the end of his hat. Just getting that nice, call this color blocking, so it's just a nice foundation color in the background. All right, so let me make sure I've got everything. All right, so I have my mustache, I've got my beard, I've got little bits of his sweet little curls coming up here to the side. And eyebrows. Got to get those eyebrows. Eyebrows are so important these days. And even Santa has to have his face perfectly framed in. Oh, and I still have to get the top of the hat. Yeah, so I've got a little bit more to do here. All right, so there we go. There's an eyebrow. Here's another one. And then we still need to work in the rest of this little hat right in here. This little ball here is going to be a berry, so we're going to avoid that. All right, so now I think we're good. So I've got the top of my hat, both eyebrows, the ball, mustache, and all of the beard. So we're all good on that. Okay. All right, so now it is time to work in some of those brighter colors. So I want some beautiful green. All right, so I've got cadmium green. And you can keep this really simple with just like a cadmium green and white. I'm also going to show you another option. We also have in the paint kit here, we have a bright yellow green, and this can be really fun as well for the holly leaves. So I'm going to give you a little visual on that. And you can make a decision. So you can add just a little bit of white to your cadmium. Looks like that. And then you can also go with a little bit more warmth with that bright yellow green and your cadmium green. So a lot of times people like this warmth. It just really makes it pop on top of the canvas. It's really pretty and bright. I'm going into those holly leaves. So I've got some really tiny little points to work into. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little twist here. So it keeps my brush loaded. But again, I twist that head of the brush into a nice fine point, so it makes it a lot easier to get into those tiny points. And initially, it might be a little bit transparent on you. I will say another thing too, I always try to add a little bit of at least some white or that bright yellow green. It will really help it cover better on the canvas, so that the cadmium green in a pure state can be very translucent and streaky. So adding a little bit of the titanium white or the bright yellow green really helps it cover better. So that's a nice little trick there too. I think you'll be much happier with the results. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and feather out these strokes. And just get some really nice coverage over the surface area. Get that filled in. And then same thing here. Getting those little points again. And just feather that out. Some nice coverage there. Beautiful. All right, so that's our beautiful little holly leaf. Okay, so next up, we've got our red, and then we have a little bit of pink for Santa's little tongue in there. So I'm going to start with some of that red. Now, I happen to have some beautiful cool red that I love. NAPTHOLENE, CARMINE, or CARMINE. I need to figure out how to say that, actually. I'm not sure. CARMINE, maybe? I will look that up, especially since I might be saying it a lot. Okay, or if you're using our kit, I like to mix these two. So I have some cadmium red. It's very warm to start with. And then we have primary magenta. Okay, so I am going to start by showing you how to mix this. Boy, I've used a lot of this. Hold on, I gotta squeegee it out over here to the side. And I got some. All right, so there's my little pea-size amount of the warm red. That's my cadmium red. And then we've got some of that primary magenta. And I'm going to do another size. So if you mix this with equal parts, then you get a really beautiful cool red. So let's go ahead and get those two together, just about equal parts. And you can see how beautiful that is now. That's really pretty. All right, so now I've got my little bit brush, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little twist here into the paint. And then I hold the brush a little bit more, just like you'd hold a pencil, so that will give you a lot more precision as you go around that little shape there. We're just going to go ahead and fill in. This is the shape of that fun little berry. And by the way, everything's looking a little bit raw at this point. That's okay. We're going to come back in with lots of refined details, especially the outline. The outline will really help. And I will say something about that outline too. As you work that in, what I encourage beginners to do, it's just so much easier, is to go ahead and let your entire painting set up and dry. You can be patient with it, or you can use a hairdryer. And then you can come back in with that permanent marker, and you can actually just do all of your outlining with the permanent marker right over the top. So when the kit comes with that, you can just use that. A lot of beginners really love that because it's just so much easier to do. And nobody knows. They just feel like you're a magical painting genius and that you just have that kind of precision. So it's pretty awesome. All right, so I'm working in this red, and initially I have to hold the brush again a little bit more like a pencil to get into those tiny little areas, but it does kind of dig into the paint and it creates a little bit of some transparency. So I do have to make sure that when I come back in for that second coat, that I feather it out and hold that brush a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. And see, that will help feather out those brush strokes and then give me a lot better coverage over the surface area. So just tiny little, I'm going to leave a little bit of a white space there just so I keep that line intact, so I know where that separates between the hat and the berry. And see, I'm going to come back in with a black line in that little area, so I'm not worried about that. And we're seeing some transparency and brush strokes, so you can always just let it set up and then come back in for a second coat, or you can just really try to be much more intentional about holding that brush just very gently over to the side. All right, so that's quite beautiful. We've got our red worked into the top. Now all we have to do is add just a tiny amount of white to this red that we already have set up. And then that's awesome because that's going to give us our pink. So I'm going to grab some white over from the other plate there. And I want this pink to be super light. That may actually be a little dark. I'm going to grab some more white. All right, so again, really light baby pink there. That's getting there. All right, so I'm going to twist out the head of that brush to a nice fine point, and then we're going to go ahead and work in just a little tiny amount of that very light pink. This is just a little tongue area here, because Santa's like, hey, or rather, ho, ho, ho. Or anymore, it's that meme, hey, girl. That's what he's saying. Okay. All right. So now we have so much great foundational work done. So now I think we're literally to the point of just the very easy, beautiful line art that comes. Oh, and then my little retro snowflakes in the sky. We don't want to forget that either. So actually, let's do some of those. Those are very fun. All right, but I need a little buddy brush. All right, so here is little buddy. He has a lovely little 1/4-inch flat top there. That is going to work beautifully for what we're about to do. I need a lot more of just some pure white. So I have some from earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and push right into that. And then basically making that shape to begin with is going to be like making just one vertical line and then a horizontal line. So you got your little plus sign to begin with, and then just do a diagonal and then another diagonal. So we're going to start with that. That's going to be the first motion. And then what you'll do is you'll come back in, you'll use the end of the brush, dip into the white, makes a little circle, and then you can go ahead and just press that down on each little end. And that's what gives us our really fun retro looking snowflake. And you're going to love this polka dot technique because it always ends up looking the same every single time. And even if you don't quite get a good, compression the first time, then you can always just redot it and it'll fill it right in. But typically what I like to do is I like to stay on track and just basically fill in with all of my little dashes first. So I'll do all of those and just sprinkle those about. And then I'll follow up with the little circles. Because to me, it's more fun to just continue on with the same motion, basically. And then as I go, like I noticed my brush was getting pretty thick. So your lines can get really thick when that happens. So I have to continually, just really press in. So it's loading up the brush with paint, but it's also, check your end, it's very thin. Right there we go. Yeah, very thin there. You want to make sure. See, I did a better job, and that one's really thin. That's almost maybe too thin, but yeah. But you can always reinforce that a little bit. So this is a fun little design because, again, very relaxing. And that's definitely always a criteria for me with part of the painting process. If something is a little bit too hard, I mean, I have some classes that are definitely a little bit more challenging, but for the most part, my main objective is to always keep it, very fun and easy and to provide a process that's very relaxing. So I don't ever like for things to be too complex. All right, let's do another one up here. You can really just place these just about everywhere. And I've seen some people make these a lot bigger and less of them. That's a different approach too. And not that much more to go here. Checking my end, keep giving that firm pressure as I push into the paint, keeping that thin line edge. And I'm gonna do a little bit more in here. Okay, I'm just going crazy with these things. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stop. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and rinse out. I'm gonna continue on. Same brush, but now we're going to use the handle. We'll just keep dipping into that white. And again, this is another really fun therapeutic move. And you can see how it just is so easy, works out every time. And I don't know that it'll happen on this run, but again, sometimes you don't always get just the right hit with the paint, maybe, but you can always just reload and repress in that same area. So we're just going to dot out all of our little retro snowflakes. So this is a really fun, easy way, a very stylized way to make it look like it's snowing. Just reminds me of the 50s and my grandmother's kitchen out in California. She had a beautiful home in Capistrano Beach. It was San Clemente. I'm getting that confused. It's been a while. But her house was absolutely gorgeous. She had a courtyard and lemon trees in the backyard, all these little statues, and we would play back there and run around and hide in between the bushes and the lemon trees and the statues. It was so magical. And then we could also go walk up to the bluff and go look out over the ocean. It's just a really neat place. But yeah, it was actually San Clemente, California is where that was. And her house looked a lot like this painting, especially at Christmas time. She definitely had this influence in her house, the 50s and the retro look. Man, there are a lot of snowflakes. It's like, why did I do so many? Also, I'm getting a little thick down here, so I kind of did a little bit of a white, and then I'm gonna reload here. Y'all gonna see me dot for days. You might be out there going, hurry up. Get it going. I need to be an octopus mom with a couple more arms and do all this. You really kind of have to reload every time because you get that compression down and then you run out of paint. I think. Yeah, it gets a little bit smaller on the second dot. What have I done with all these snowflakes? Well, gosh, You guys have fun out there. You don't have to do as many as me. I've gone snowflake crazy. Oh, wow, there's people out there. Hi, everybody. Sorry. Let's see, who do we have? Hi, Christopher, Logan, Rakeisha. How are y'all? I hope y'all are doing great today. I'm making dots forever. So, forever making these snowflake dots. And hello to everybody else out there. I know there are more people out there too, but I can't, for some reason, I can't see everybody. But hello to everybody who's joining us today. Holy dot moly. I just, wow. So many of these. So sorry. I swear. I was about to say I'm almost done, but I'm a little bit more than halfway. So tell you what, while we're doing this, y'all could tell me about any great Christmas movies that you have seen lately. So I have seen Die Hard. That's a classic. I've seen Fat Man with Mel Gibson. That's a little bit, see, I'm going through all the ones that are a little bit more edgy with some violence. Reindeer Games. Why am I saying all these first? I don't know why, but those are the ones that are coming to my mind first. They're very like action adventure with kind of a lot of violence. Sorry. Let's go with some classics. Well, I've also seen It's a Wonderful Life, Elf, Four Holidays with Vince Vaughn. I love that one. And Heartland Christmas. That one was filmed here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. Was the #1 requested Christmas movie of last year on Hulu. I encourage you to watch that. You can get a peek at Guthrie. It's definitely just Hallmark. Feels like Hallmark. It's not Hallmark, but it feels like that. And then I have watched so many Hallmark Christmas movies. That's all I do anymore. I'm just obsessed with them. They help keep me so calm. And so, yeah. And then my husband can't take it anymore. And then at night he's like, no, I have to see Die Hard. So, that's how it goes. But Die Hard is a great Christmas movie. In a weird way. Yeah. All right. So I swear now, I promise we are almost done with all these dots. That was a little crazy. I appreciate those of you who have stuck with me through this process. If you watch this, of course, as we're live now, so there's no fast forward. Sorry, you got to just stick with me. But the recordings stay up forever, and you can fast forward through all this crazy dot making. But we're almost done here. Wow. 2 more to go. I need to think this through next time I commit to so many snowflakes. Wow. We have one more. This is crazy. I've never been so happy to be done with snowflakes. That was a bit much, wasn't it? Okay. Whew. Okay, that was kind of crazy. But we have a lot of snow apparently. All right, so now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and do a little bit of a sketch with the white now. So I've got my little bit brush, just barely tap into that. And then I want to go ahead and do a little bit of a soft white line through here. And I forgot one dot that I need this dot. I was like, no more with the dots. But I need a little flash point right there on that holly berry. Okay. And then we're going to do a lot of black outline work now too. Actually, not quite black. We're going to switch gears back to that charcoal, like a really dark charcoal, and then a little bit of black, but mostly a lot of that dark charcoal. So I've got my black nearby and then my white. So I'm going to go ahead and get some charcoal going, really dark. So we're going to start with this around the hair. Now, also, I'm going to add a little bit of water and make that a little bit more fluid, and it will move a little bit easier. So I'm going to get just a little puddle of that going on my plate, and I can spin into that. And so I got to watch. I put my pinky down a lot to help brace my hand. I got to make sure I don't push it down into a little snowflake. That would be sad. So I'm doing a little bit of an outline now around like the eyebrows. It's like Santa's getting a little bit of some microblading this year. Yeah, he likes it. He's a Santa that goes to the spa. So I feathered back in a little bit more white into that too. All right, now let's go right back into this darker charcoal. Just working in. I don't want the eyebrows to be too severe with that outline though. So, and we're going to work back in with our little bit brush and a little bit of white. And we're going to feather into that gray so that that doesn't look so dramatic. And you can also kind of feather in, you know, just a little bit of that texture of the eyebrow hair there. And then I'll work in a little bit of white here on the side. Really nice. Okay. All right, so now you can see how this is all starting to look a little bit more refined as we work in around the edges. I'm going to add a little bit more water here to my charcoal, and we're just working on this outline. So we'll come around the mustache now. And then we'll work back into that with a little bit more white, just to give it a soft blend. So I've got my little bit brush again, a little bit more white, and I'm going to work back in. So a little bit of a soft transition with that line. And then we'll go ahead and reinforce just the little tiny lines that come up here. And just kind of feather those out with a light hand. Just a little curve up. And then I need to go ahead and just outline, just little outlines here. See, I had a little bit of a dry brush happen there, so I'm going to go ahead and push into a little bit more water here on my plate, and then just get that to be a little bit more fluid so it'll just flow into that space. Got a little bit heavy on the water there, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that through. And then now this beard will really start to pop out in the front. And just light sketches all the way around. And then basically we can just start to follow all of that line work that we did initially here. So you can still see it peeking through, basically. So you can just follow it. So again, just charcoal, which is black, and Mars black, titanium white, a little bit of water on that canvas to help it be a little bit more fluid and smooth for these tinier strokes. And we're just doing little swirls. And a fun thing to tell yourself with a swirl is you can start by just thinking about it like it's the number 6. So that's really how it feels. At least for that initial stroke anyway. I'm going to get a little bit more of a darker charcoal, almost black. A little twist here into the paint. So I want this to be a little bit darker. Just following up that little line right there. And again, this is that part where I said you could actually do this with the permanent marker at the end. So if all this precision work is a little bit intimidating, just know that you can certainly do it that way. And then after I do the charcoal, take note of how you can softly blend it out a little bit too if you want. So I just did a darker charcoal. Now I can also just dip my paintbrush into a little bit of white. And while that paint is still wet, then I can do another coat of the white, which gives a soft blend to it. So the curlicue is definitely just a really fun, stylized way to do all the little swirls rather than trying to work out the realism of the beard hair. This is just a fun, stylized way to do it. It's looking good. Yeah, that looks awesome. Okay, so we just have a little bit more to go here. Again, this is my little bit brush, and we're just working in a lot of that detail with the outline. So this is the bottom of the hat. And get a little bit more just a black in here. And when you add this outline, it's really nice how it makes those elements pop right back out to the front again. Getting a nice fine point there. And then, of course, the outline up here at the top of the hat. And I definitely come in with a little bit more black up here. All right, and then I need to go ahead and reinforce that line around the berry. So we have our little holly berry here. I want to make sure that pops out in front as a berry and not part of the hat. So a nice precise line there. All right, and then all the other parts of that face, see, that was just done with our beautiful permanent marker to begin with, and you don't even have to redo that. So now we are absolutely done with our classic Santa. Looks super cute. Yeah, absolutely love it. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so much fun. And all the supplies that you need for this, we make sure that you have everything that you need with the kit. And we've made it super affordable. It's the same cost as what a class has always been in the past, but now you get to keep all the supplies too. So the gift box is all curated, has everything that you need, and you can order this or choose from more than 150 designs at tipsyartist.com. So have fun with that. And again, I have all the details. I'll have it down in the description below. You can come back and watch this class anytime. But I just want to thank y'all so very, very much for joining me today. I had so much fun. And y'all have a beautiful rest of the day. See you soon.